Hey everyone, welcome back. Music and Moonsalt's channel. I'm your host, Chris Bordine. Um, we're here for episode 2 of the Rock and Roll Retrospective. Before I tell you what we're talking about and who I've got coming on, go ahead and leave a thumbs up on the video. Subscribe if you haven't subscribed yet, please. I'll leave a comment, and share it. Share the video too, so all your friends can watch it. Today we are talking with one of my other best friends. We've had Matt on a couple times to talk wrestling. And now we've got my other best friend, one of my other best friends, Gerald Colon, is going to be on. And we're going to be talking about an album that means a lot to both of us, and it's DC Talk's Jesus Freak album. This is the 25th anniversary this month of that album, and the landmark album. It's one, like I said, that means a lot to both of us to get his side of it. But yeah, I hope you like it. I know this is maybe a little more obscure for some people, but this is like I said, this is an album that means a lot to me. And seeing as it was the 25th anniversary, I thought it was the perfect time to discuss it. Gerald will be on here in a minute, and we're going to talk about Jesus Freak from DC Talk. Stand by. All right, everyone. Like I said, I've got my one of my best friends, Gerald Colon, joining me today. Gerald, how we doing, man?
Doing great. Glad to be on.
Awesome. So, today we are going to be talking about this album.
Yes.
I got this, this is when it was 20 years, so 5 years ago. They released this, and I think they released Supernatural too at the same time on vinyl. So I got those for Christmas.
Nice.
And then the following year they did the live album, so I got that one too. So,
oh yeah.
Quick story. So, I believe the year was 2000, and it's the first. I don't know if it was the very first day, but the beginning of the school year, we'll call it that. And I'm on the bus, and all of a sudden there's a new stop. I'm like, who's getting on here? And on walks Gerald, and over the course of riding the bus and having some classes together and stuff, we got to talking and obviously became real fast friends. And one of the things that we realized that we had in common was our love of DC Talk.
Yes.
So when was your first exposure to DC?
I think I did the math today, and I think I was 8 years old in 92. That's when the Free at Last album came out.
Okay.
I was, I think, in second grade, maybe second, third grade. A kid for show and tell brought in the Free at Last tape.
Oh, nice.
Because his older brother was like, this kid in second grade knew every member of the group. He was like, Toby's like the rapper. He taught like Michael, he's teaching him how to rap. He knew like stuff that like, this is pre-internet. So like this kid in second grade, his brother was already into this group.
Well, they do have a lot of ties to Michigan. I mean, Kevin's from here.
Yep.
And so I was gonna ask this later, or get into this later. I didn't see them live until the following album, Supernatural. They did the rehearsal for the Supernatural tour at the Christian Family Center in Adrian.
I saw them for Supernatural.
Okay. Yeah, I saw them on at festivals and that.
Yeah.
But like the first time I saw them was at the Christian Family Center, and they still had the Jesus Freak, like the covering on like the front of the keyboard stand, all that kind of stuff. They still had the Jesus Freak stuff out, but they were rehearsing for the Supernatural tour. And it was really cool to see them in a
Jesus
small place like
mode.
that. Like down the road, basically. It It was really cool. So
Yeah.
I first see I was my memory of this time period is fuzzy. I don't know why, but I want to say I didn't. Free at Last was my first exposure as well.
Yeah.
I remember my mom bringing it home because it was in. I want to say it was either 94 or maybe it was earlier this year in 95 when I got that album. Because it was around that time our family started getting more involved at church. And mom and dad had just started listening to a lot of Christian music.
And that is pretty much the same beat with us.
Yeah.
Like started going to church, started getting involved.
I mean, we always went, but we were starting to actually like get involved.
Yeah.
So I just remember her being out, and I think I had already had a Petra cassette. So I was already like exploring, and then she brought the home the CD of Free at Last, and I was
a CD.
Yeah, it was the CD.
Nice.
Yeah,
nice. So you guys were ahead of the time.
Yeah, well, because it was I was, and that's why I want to say it was like 94, 95, because I think I got my first stereo with a CD player like the Christmas right around there.
Okay.
So, but yeah, so I got this. Yeah, I got the Free at Last CD, and I was like, this isn't typically what I'm into, but it's pretty good. I like.
Yeah.
It's weird. I was thinking about this today. They don't really have a mainstream comparison.
They don't. I was talking to somebody yesterday at work about this group, and I said, it's hard to compare the Beatles to somebody. And I think I've even told you this before. I was like, they've changed their sound with every album that they have had.
Right.
Like they don't have a like, oh, this is strictly this.
Right.
Like, and I'll get into it like when we talk later about. I was like, there's some songs on this album that are very like Red Hot Chili Peppers. You're getting some good strong bass lines. You're getting and like they change with every album. And I was gonna ask you, with your exposure to Free at Last, did you do the backtrack? Because I backtracked.
So I tried. So
exactly.
Yeah. So we had
it was a new thing.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So we had the Sounds of Light, the Christian bookstore in town in Adrian.
Yeah.
And so they would have, and this is when it was over in the Kmart Plaza. So,
okay.
And this is when like we went there like weekly, just to look around and stuff like that.
Right.
And they would do the thing where they would have like a sample CD. So, and then they would have like headphones and CD players around.
Yeah.
So you could put the CD
for all the kids out there. We have to break it down.
Right. Yes. You would go in and like they would have, your racks of CDs.
Right.
And in the front, like of the DC Talk section, there would be open ones, which were samples that you could go and take. And they had like 2 or 3 like Discmans with headphones like these on it.
Yeah.
That you would put those sample CDs in, and you could, click through and decide if you wanted to buy something or not. And they had the first 2 albums, the DC Talk and New Thing. And yeah, that wasn't at the time. Like, I think if I went back and listened to him today, I would have a greater appreciation for him.
Yes.
Because I have a greater appreciation for mainstream rap of that era today.
Yeah. The stuff that like you may not have liked then, you're like, oh, I don't like this, or that's not me. Then you're like, oh, I appreciate it better now.
Yes.
Yeah. And I hear, because like there, I specifically remember they did, I think it was called Spinning Around. There was and I just, in my head, I'm like, what is this song about?
Right.
Like it was, and like that was in their DC Talk. But yeah, getting into some of the other stuff, it's a little bit different. But yeah, it changed.
So just to backtrack, DC Talk, they're a trio of guys. In fact, here's them on the back cover of the album. That's Kevin Max, Michael Tate, and Toby Mac. By then they were all going by, well, Michael Tate's always been Michael Tate, but back then they were going by like their full names and stuff. It's kind of
Yeah.
weird to think about now.
Kevin
Max Smith and Toby
McKeon, yeah.
But yeah, they're a trio, and they started out as like a rap trio, even though I don't think even back in the early ways like Kevin and Michael did that much rapping.
Yeah.
But yeah, and they did Christian music, and they formed in 1987 at Liberty University in Lynchburg, Virginia. They put out their first album, self-titled, DC Talk, in 1989. Then followed that up in 1990 with New Thing, NUTHANG, you know, because we gotta be hip and with it.
Yes.
And then Free at Last came out in 92. And so, like you were saying, like the first two straight rap. Free at Last, they kind of start mixing in a lot of pop.
There's even a hint of R&B.
There's some R&B, and they start going toward the rock realm on that album too. Like they on that album they do a cover of Lean on Me.
Yes, great cover. Yep.
Yes. And it's their first little taste of mainstream success. A year or a couple years before this album comes out, they were on Jay Leno.
Yeah.
In November of 93, which is crazy to think about at that time.
A
Christian act being on late night television.
Yeah.
And it also, they won their first Grammy on that album too. So that, like I said, that comes out in 92. They do a big tour. They even did a documentary, like a movie follow up, you know, kind of, and it wasn't like a full concert movie, but it had some live footage and also like just kind of like a diary almost.
Right.
And then so the reason why we're talking about Jesus Freak is because on November 21st, 1995, so almost exactly 25 years ago, is when this album was released. And this is the album where I'm like, DC Talk are my guys. Like as important as Kiss is to me, like as far as overall, like musically and what they've meant to me and stuff like that, like when it comes to Christian music, that's what DC Talk is to me. Like they are the be all end all for me.
Right.
And this is the album that did it, because this is another step in the evolution. This is way more rock. Grunge was huge, you know.
A lot of grunge
lot of grunge. I listened to it all the way through today, and I would say it's very 90s. Like you can definitely tell it's a 90s album, but there are a couple songs that are timeless. Like you're like, that could be a song today.
I actually put notes next to two songs on here that could be today.
Mm-hmm.
Like it could come out today, and this could mean, you know, and that's just me picking two, not saying that like there aren't other ones that definitely you could listen to at any point.
So, and then the themes that, you know, they talk all, you know, the basic, you know, Christian music thing about accepting Jesus, you know, and like racism and stuff, like the topics they touch in this album is wide ranging. At the time when it came out, it was the largest first week seller in contemporary Christian music at the time. It went gold, which is 500,000 copies in its first month. And it ended up double platinum, which is over 2 million copies sold in the US. And it peaked at number 16 on the Billboard, on the overall Billboard chart. Like that's not Christian music. That's all of music.
Yeah.
So, and then it won the 1997 Grammy for the best rock gospel album.
Yeah. It was, when that came out, like you said, that was I already liked the group, and that the Free at Last, like was I think we wore that tape out. I think we rebought it. And then by the time this came out, Oh, and I was 11, 95. Yeah, I'm 11.
Mm-hmm.
And even at that point, I'm experimenting with music. I don't know what quite I like. And I knew my dad liked a lot of old rock, and that kind of hit home too. But like this was just different, and it was, and like there was stuff I was hearing on the radio, like you said, with a lot of the grunge and
right. Yeah.
Just
yeah.
great.
I was always a rock kid, and we were listening to a lot of country at the time too. But I was always a rock kid, so again, as much as I can appreciate Free at Last more now, and I did, like I said, I did like it back then, but
Right.
this album was just like, oh man, they rock now. Like, this is great.
Yeah.
So, you told me yesterday on the phone your very first experience listening to this album.
Yeah. So if this came out on November 25th, 95, fast forward 1 month to December 25th, I unwrapped this puppy and I'm like, I have to listen to it right now. We are in my grandma's small house. Like my entire family is there, packed. It's packed. And so I'm like, okay, I'm listening to it. And the first track is So Help Me God. And it starts off slow.
Mm-hmm.
And she's got this old school stereo, the tower speakers. And I'm like, all right, I'm turning it up.
Yeah.
I'm turning it up more. And then it drops. It just drops. And like, if you haven't heard the album, listen to it. But like, seriously, this thing drops and it's loud. The entire family was like, what are you doing? Like my little Hispanic grandma is like freaking out. Like I thought I blew one of her speakers.
Right.
Like it was a huge, but like, all right, I had to like shut it off, pull it out. And like, I did like, that's all I listened to was like the first 30 to 40 seconds of that tape. And then I didn't get to listen to it till I got home. Cause my mom was like, you're not listening. Like this is too loud. It's too many people here. So I had to like go home. But like, that was my intro. I'm like, I don't know what that was. I didn't finish the song even, but I liked it. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So again, like this is so bad, but like I'm assuming I got it for Christmas that year. Again, it was the CD, so I know it was pretty right around this time. But yeah, I can't for the life of me remember if I got it right away or if I waited till Christmas or if it was even like sometime in '96 when I got it. But
right,
I just know I got it and I played a bunch of it. So yeah, so what we're gonna do now is similar. If you watch the video with my dad and my brother where we talked about Kiss Unplugged, we're gonna go track by track and talk about our feelings on the song. If there's any anecdotal information, I'll give that out. But yeah, we're gonna take this track by track. And so Gerald mentioned the first track is So Help Me God. Like I said, it starts out with this slow guitar part, and it's a little muffled and distorted, and it's just it's real pleasant.
It's hard to hear. It's hard to hear.
Yeah. And it's just real, it's distorted guitar, but it's not like guitar. It's just like, and then Toby whispers, "I got something for you, man," and then it kicks.
Yes.
This is Lenny Kravitz is what I think of when I hear this song. This is a very Lenny Kravitz like song,
and Lenny's up my alley too. Right. So yeah, like that's
so.
Yes, very much. But like the drop though was very it was like the dubstep drop before dubstep. It was like just waiting for that, but like, we didn't know we were waiting for that sick drop.
But yeah, no, this is a really good song, real good rock, 90s rock track.
Yeah.
Talking about, help me God to put my faith in you. It was pretty simple, but it was a good way to kick off the album. The second song on the album is Colored People. I mentioned earlier they talk about racism on this album. You got two white guys and a black guy in the group. So it kind of makes sense, this is a subject they would touch on.
Now, do you remember the video to Colored People?
Vaguely.
now I rewatched it because
Okay.
as much as the song touched me again, I'm like, I have
Mhm.
to watch the video.
Mhm.
I remembered it vaguely. They have different people with different color, but there's paintings of
Mhm.
the pajamas that the Jews wore in the concentration camp,
Oh, okay.
and they say like always remember, and it's
Mhm.
painted on the wall,
Mhm.
and stuff like that. I don't think I got as a kid,
Right.
really, or the way
Mhm.
I should. I get it now.
Right.
And I was watching that. I'm like, oh, this is like so relevant to what
Mhm.
our society and
Yeah,
life.
well, yeah, this is one of the songs where I'm like, this is maybe not so much musically, because musically it is pretty 90s, but as far
Yeah,
as lyric wise and as far as subject matter, it could be released today,
yeah,
because it's basically we're all colored people, we're all
yeah,
people of different colors and whatnot, but we're all God's children type thing.
yeah.
um so it was real. They even, do you remember the foundation they had? E e e
Vaguely, vaguely.
erase. It's erase, but instead of an S, it's a C, because it stands
E
for eliminating
Race.
racism
Yeah,
and creating
yeah.
equality. So they even had a foundation where they were,
Trying to eradicate.
yeah,
Yeah,
trying
yeah,
to fight racism.
yeah, yeah,
Again, that's something that's still happening today. So,
yeah, yeah. It's
um,
not going anywhere. Yeah,
no.
yeah,
And then we come to the title track. Uh, my favorite song on the album. Like, it's a banger, as they say
yeah.
now.
Yeah.
Um,
As the kids
Again,
say,
it starts out a little quieter. It starts out with,
it
it's
does.
like an acoustic, almost like when they were trying to write the song, they had tape rolling. And it's an acoustic guitar and someone singing the chorus, and then it kicks in, and
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
it's it's grunge, and it's rap, and
yeah.
it's all
Yep.
these things coming together, and it's such a great song.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, it's some of my. I'll always have those lyrics in my head.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'll be at work and like, you know, singing these lyrics
Yeah.
or those raps. Like, it just sticks with you. But like, then you're like, as you look further into like the song, and they talking about King Herod,
Yeah.
and then like I'm like, oh man, they're like,
Yeah.
oh, like
Yeah.
there's storytelling as
Mm-hmm.
well. There's like a story in that song, and
Yeah.
they're talking about individual people who were Jesus freak
Mm-hmm.
in different times,
Right.
but they weren't afraid
Yeah.
to be,
And this is the song that pretty
and
much defines their career. I mean, Jesus freak was a term goes all the way back to like the 60s and 70s.
yeah,
And it was
yeah.
more of like I don't want to say derogatory, because that's probably a little strong, but it wasn't meant as a
It
compliment.
was just meant to make fun of like the
Yeah.
kids who went to church,
Yeah.
and yeah,
And they were like, you know what? No, we're gonna take this, and we're gonna be proud to be called Jesus freak.
and I think I was gonna say, I think they did that with Free at Last too, with
Mm-hmm.
the Jesus is Still All Right with
Yeah.
Me.
Mm-hmm.
They took that song, they were like, oh, like it was kind of a,
Mm-hmm.
made fun of the, and they kind of took it and made it different. So I
Yeah.
think they,
Mm-hmm.
like you said, they took that term
Yeah.
and like, all right, well, I'm gonna give you a rock banger.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and
Yeah.
it was very um I felt this song, because especially as I got older, and we moved more deeper and deeper into church involvement, and like it wasn't too long after, it was only a couple years after this, where we pretty much exclusively listened to Christian music in the house. Like, that was it.
Yeah.
And like, I had, I was a kid with the WWJD bracelet. I was a kid wearing the DC Talk shirts to school. And like, people were like, what do you listen to Christian music for? That's stupid. And like,
Have you tried it? Because
yeah.
like, and I have one thing I have to like interrupt real quick and
Yeah.
just say, this entire album, not just the album, this group could have went toe to toe with a lot of groups that were in the 90s,
Mm-hmm.
but didn't. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
Yeah.
Like I know, like in my heart of hearts, that like they realize it, like we're good. Like
Mhm.
like like they could like that album, if it wasn't a Christian album, but if you had those tracks with a different, it would have held up.
Yeah.
Like great. Like you said, they peaked at what, the 16?
Yeah, number 16.
So like that's being a quote unquote gospel Christian group. I'm like, they would have ruled the 90s if you know, they're changing the way they did their setup with their albums.
Yeah. So yeah, no, I can't say much about how much I love that song. It's a great song. And it got crossover, like it was on the Christian radio, and then it was on like mainstream alternative rock stations. Like
I saw it on MTV. Like that was on MTV. So I was like, okay.
Yeah. So next we got a little bit of a slower song. It's called "What If I Stumble," and what I love this song too. And what I really love is at the very beginning of the song. It's a quote by a guy named Brennan Manning, who was an author, a priest, and a public speaker. And it's something that I've really felt recently, like identifying with. But it's, you know, he says, greatest single cause of atheism in the world today is Christians who acknowledge Jesus with their lips and walk out the door and deny him by their lifestyle. That is what an unbelieving world simply finds unbelievable. Like, man, if I don't see a lot of that,
it's hard. It's hard.
Yeah. And so, and the song is basically about like being, the way I interpret it is it's about being this Christian icon type, you know, which is a weird thing to say, but you know, like a leader for in Christian music and you know, people Christians look up to, and how do you keep
a role model?
Yeah, and how do you keep that image? You know, when you're not perfect, when you do make mistakes,
and
you are gonna fall short.
And we're human, and we're gonna stumble.
Exactly.
Like literally, like it's, you know, what if I stumble? What if I fall? Yeah, and it's, you know, you just get back up and
but it's a real, it's a pretty song, like musically.
Like that's the first, like I think track, like, and throughout this entire album you can hear the acoustic in the background, but like it's forefront in this song.
I think there's like accordion in it too, like, or something.
I can't pinpoint what it is.
Yeah, but it's a different type instrument.
Yeah.
But yeah, the acoustic guitar solo in this song, like always, it makes me feel something every time I listen to it. So yeah, I love that song. Next is Day by Day. So you mentioned it earlier on Free at Last. They did Jesus Is Still All Right, which is, they took the chorus of Jesus Is Just All Right, which was an old song, you know, old secular song. They took that chorus and then DC talked it up with, you know, Toby raps and stuff like that. They do the same thing with this song. This is the chorus of Day by Day is a song from the musical Godspell.
See, I didn't know that.
Yes.
So
yes,
okay,
it's from the musical Godspell. And then they just wrote verses to go along with it. Because in God's, it's just the day by day, all day long. Three things I pray.
Pray. Yeah. So they filled in their the three things that they're praying for.
Yeah. Well, and then that part is part of the original too. The see thee more clearly, follow thee more nearly, love thee more dearly. That is also from the musical. So that whole section is from Godspell, and then the verses is DC Talk. I think it was Toby and Kevin who wrote the rest of it. So
nice.
But yeah,
see, look at that, dropping some knowledge.
I do my homework. Again, it's very, very 90s rock, but it's still good. Still good stuff.
Love it.
Next we get a little skit. Mrs. Morgan.
Yes.
You want to explain Mrs. Morgan for the people?
Mrs. Morgan, she lived next door to the Goatee. Was it the Goatee Boys?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And they had a drummer. And I was with him at breakfast and in lunch and at dinner.
Yeah.
And so basically,
she tells them if he drums anymore, he's going to be a dead drummer.
He's going to be a dead drummer.
Yeah.
Love it though. Even as a kid though, like I thought that was hilarious.
Yeah.
Like this, because like in my head, I'm like, this is an old lady, but she's like threatening this, like,
like the, keep making that racket. I'm gonna.
Yeah, but like now, correct me if I'm wrong, but wasn't the Goatee Boys like an offshoot? Wasn't like that Toby Max?
Well, yeah. I mean, it was. I can't remember when exactly, but soon after this, he starts his own record label called Goatee Records.
Yes. I think it was like something like that, along that line.
Yeah, we get that little skit, and then this next song is called "Between You and Me," and this song got. You want to talk about mainstream success? This one was on the Billboard Hot 100, and it peaked at number 20. It was a top 30 song.
Nice.
Peaked at 29. And I remember, like, I would hear this when I worked at Kmart. Like, they played this.
I heard it. I heard it at Meyer.
Yeah. So this would get played with all the other,
contemporary,
adult contemporary songs that you would hear in grocery stores. Like that.
Yeah.
And it's, basically a song about making amends and, asking friends for forgiveness if you've done them wrong and stuff like that. So I do remember the video for this. They're in a laundromat singing the song.
Yes. And there's the guy running though, isn't there?
Yeah, there's a guy running.
I forget how it ends. Like I haven't watched it in years, but like I remember there's a guy like running as they're just doing their laundry.
Yeah. Track 8 is Like It, Love It, Need It. This is a rocker.
Yes.
I know you gotta like it. You gotta love it. I know you need it. I know you need some Jesus in your life. It's just a hard rocking song, especially the verses are a little like.
It
mellow.
Starts off slow though.
Yeah.
It's it's under the circumstances.
Yeah, just very mellow, and then it kicks in.
I think that you know what the secret to this album. Every song's a sleeper. like you pretty much don't expect it to be, a great.
Well, it's funny because I was gonna look, and I didn't have time to do it before we jumped on, but I was gonna look, the last cruise they did, and just see out of their set list how many songs come from this album, because I would imagine they got more songs from this album than any other album.
I would have to imagine. Yeah. Like they're gonna pepper in some Free at Last.
Yeah.
Mostly Jesus Freak.
I would think it's mostly Jesus Freak, then probably Supernatural, and then probably a couple songs off Free at Last. But yeah, I would say the bulk is probably from.
I'll tell you this though, when I saw them live, their Jesus Freak stuff at the Supernatural concert was out of control. It was, even though that was like their new album, they went hard in the Jesus Freak.
Oh yeah.
Stuff.
Well, I mean,
it was just great.
They released 2 books titled Jesus Freak about Christian martyrs who were in countries where Christianity was frowned upon, and told their stories. So
they took the Jesus Freak title and they
it was their branding. It was their branding.
Yeah, it wasn't just an album; it became them.
It's their identity, basically.
Yeah.
Real quick, going back Between You and Me, I found it weird that, like I said, their most mainstream success on the album, it wasn't on the live album. Like, of all these, pretty much every other single song is on the live album except for that one.
That's weird.
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah.
And and it's a very popular song
Yeah,
too of theirs.
yeah.
Yeah, that's weird that they left it out.
Mm-hmm. So,
Huh.
and track 9 is the
What
reprise
will people
of Jesus
do?
Freak, and it's I tried finding out and I couldn't. I got
Where
maybe
it came from?
like who it is, like
Yeah,
who
yeah,
the
yeah,
person is,
yeah,
but it's a cheesy lounge singer singing karaoke
yeah,
style the chorus to Jesus Freak.
yeah,
And
yeah.
it's awful. Like it's way off key.
But it's funny though.
It is. Yeah.
Yeah.
And at the end he's, doing the tip your waiters and waitresses or
Yeah.
something. How many people we have from Sheboygan or something like that, it's yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then after that we got In the Light, which is a Charlie Peacock cover. Another this was a cover song.
I didn't know that one either.
Yep. Charlie Peacock was like a singer-songwriter, gospel guy from like 70s and 80s, I think.
Okay.
This was one of his songs. They covered it, and it's better than the original.
It's another.
Let me tell that.
It's another acoustic.
Yeah.
Great song on this album. And I specifically remember, I used to go the church that I used to go to. They would do these things called human videos, and they were. It was like they would play the song and they'd do like an interpretive story to that song, but like, they're not singing; they're just doing whatever to the song. But that was one of them I specifically remember that they would do. I saw a couple done to that song, but like it was just such a good song though.
Yeah. Yep. No, I love that song. It's just a really good song, and their version's really great. So
yeah.
Getting close to the end. Track 11. What have we become? My thought when I was listening to this today, this is dark.
Yes, I've listened to this one specifically 3 times just by itself today. What have we become, such self-indulgent people? Yeah. What if we I'm like,
this is the other song where I'm like, this is like,
this could be, you look outside your door and this is our society right now.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But it's like the first verse is about a preacher shuns his brother because his bride's a different color.
Yes.
And then like the second verse is about this little girl who hears her parents arguing and like saying like that she was a mistake, and she ends up like overdosing on pills and stuff like that. And like,
it is a dark, it's the 90s. So like definitely the 90s.
Yeah. Toby's part after the choruses where he's like, he's kind of like the voice of these self-indulgent people, like, grab all you can because you just live once. You've got the right to do whatever you want. Don't worry about others or where they came from. Stuff like that. The answer to it all is a life of wealth, and it's like, man, like
it hits hard.
It does.
Like I said, I was listening to it today again, and I was just like, oh, this is us, this as people, as a country, as it's interesting.
Yeah, and that's the only other song that wasn't on the live album from this whole album. So
interesting.
But I was like, those are my 2 thoughts today. I'm like, this song is just as relevant today, and it's super dark. I never noticed how dark it was until today. I'm like, man, that's kind of.
As a kid, I don't think we listened to all the lyrics. We're repeating them, we're singing them, but we're not. It's not hitting our brain the right way. We're not like, wait, what did I just sing?
Right. Yeah. Exactly. And then the last, it's weird because so the CD, and I'm assuming the cassette, this is the last listed song.
See, I didn't put that on my list because I can't remember if it was on the tape or not. Like when I re-listened to it again. and I don't think it was on the tape.
You mean
It might have been a secret song on the CD.
No, Mind's Eye would have been.
Pardon me?
Mind's Eye. Mind's Eye would have been.
Okay, or Mind's Eye.
Yeah.
I'm thinking.
That's what I'm saying. This was Mind's Eye was the last listed track on the CD.
Okay, Mind's Eye.
I'm assuming it was on the cassette.
Yeah, it was.
Now on like if you go on Spotify, it's Alas My Love is listed.
That's when I was thinking of Alas My Love. Yeah. I was like, I didn't.
No, it was a secret track on the CD.
Yeah, but it wasn't on the tape though. I don't think they
had enough room.
You only had so much of tape. You couldn't do a secret song.
Yeah. But Mind's Eye is the closer. It's kind of not not really psychedelic, not like you think, not like The Doors, but for the 90s it was a little more.
I know what you're saying. It's very introspective. It's very like it takes you inside yourself in a sense, like, and you're kind of looking out, kind of like your third eye, kind of. They say like it's.
I was yesterday days old when I figured out that was Billy Graham's voice in the middle of the song.
So I'm today years old.
Yeah, that was Billy Graham's. You ever seen the wind? I've seen the effects from the wind, but I've never seen the wind. That's Billy Graham's voice.
Did not know that.
Yeah, I didn't either until I was doing my research. So yeah,
met him though.
Did you?
Yes.
Well, they were big. I mean, they were big Billy Graham.
Yeah. He came to one of my old church like years ago. Interesting, but yeah, they were huge Billy Graham guys too. Yeah.
Then so there's a bonus track. Now it's listed. It's called "Alas My Love." It's a Kevin Max poem, set to music. That's what it is.
Yeah.
So, and they actually, I didn't even know this. Like, I don't think I knew that this was on there until the live album came out, because it's on the live album. It's before The Hard Way.
Okay.
He recites the poem before they do The Hard Way on the live album. And I'm like, what is this Alas My Love thing? And I don't remember how I figured it out, but yeah, it's because I would always, as soon as Mind's Eye was done, I would always
get back,
pop the CD out or start from the beginning, or whatever. And one day I must have just let it go and whatnot. And I'm like, what is this?
DC Talk was way ahead of Marvel.
Well, that was the thing. That was the thing with CDs.
Kevin Feige was like, "Hey, wait a second."
But that was popular with CDs.
It was though, because you could let it play.
If you let it go, you're like, because you're thinking
know
like,
that, but like,
why is the counter still going if the songs, this is the end of the album, but the thing's still going? That's weird. And
like, I never looked at like the last track. Remember how they would always tell you how long each track was?
Right. Well,
but if you always looked at that bottom one, like,
I don't think the track list, I don't remember on the CD whether they had the times on it.
I know, maybe not in that one. I know in Supernatural they did. And because I was like, oh, that's one of those secret tracks.
And the poem on Supernatural is listed.
Yeah, it is.
So kind of weird, but yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, maybe they did that because people didn't know about that other one. They're like, hey, people don't. You're like, hey, let's list it so they at least know this time.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
All right.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was it. That's the whole album. Yeah. I like I said, I can't put into words how much this album means to me. It's not one. Sadly, it's not one I go back to often enough. Just because I'm sort of out of that space. Christian music today, a lot of it just doesn't.
It doesn't compare to that.
It doesn't compare to that. Like, yeah, we got spoiled. We grew up in the golden age of DC Talk and Audio Adrenaline and the Newsboys.
Yes. Yep.
And nothing today really.
It doesn't touch that.
Yeah, it doesn't hit me the same. It just doesn't hit me like that.
Yeah.
Stuff does. And so, and because, you know, DC Talk's no longer active, really, they're, you know, they kind of like, for me, unless something comes up like this, or, you know, other things I see, you know, they teased us, you know, so this is, they released this in 95. I think 98 is when Supernatural comes out. And then in like 2000 is when they do the, either 2000 or 2001, they released the solo EP, which was
like I thought that yeah,
which was, it had like a live song on it from the Supernatural tour, and then they did the Kiss thing where each member put out a solo album at, like, they didn't put it out the exact same day like Kiss did, but they all put out solo albums around the same time. And that was pretty much the end of the group. Like, they put out a greatest hits. They put out a greatest hits album called Intermission. Well, we're still
we're waiting on the second part. Like the cruise, which is great.
I was gonna get there. I was gonna get there.
Okay. I'll let you get there then, because,
you know, so Michael had his band Tate. They put out 2 albums. I really liked it. That was my favorite out of all of them. Big surprise.
Yep.
But that didn't last. Like I said, they only put out like 2 albums.
Yeah.
And then he went on. He took over as the lead singer of the Newsboys, which was like totally weird for me. Like, I couldn't
because the Newsboys were they were Australian for one.
Well, I mean, a couple of the members were, you know.
But I mean, they had a sound
players from Detroit. So
yeah, but they had a sound though.
Yeah. But,
and like it just
and it just, I don't know. It's like I don't know. It'd be like Justin Timberlake going to sing for the Backstreet Boys. Like, not exactly, but you get my point. Like, it's It doesn't.
You were in a good group and you went to a good group, but that doesn't make you a good group.
So I guess maybe a better comparison is like when Axl Rose sang for AC/DC that a couple years ago. Like, it was kind of like, what? Like, It's just weird, you know.
Yeah.
But you know, Toby's by far had the most success out of all of them.
Yes, by far, yeah.
You know, as far as his solo career goes. And Kevin was Kyle's favorite, my brother. I was a Michael guy, and then our friend Casey was a Toby guy. We'd had like our own like tribute act where we would like do karaoke to DC Talk, and like whenever we would hang out and stuff like that. It was funny. Good stuff. We thought we were going to be the next DC Talk. Yeah, so they break up, and then about 4 years ago, they start, all of a sudden, the DC Talk social media channels like start like
blowing up,
and they keep teasing this stuff, like major announcement, and I'm like, oh my gosh, if this is a reunion tour,
you and me are seeing this stuff.
Yes.
And me and you were like, we're like, it's happening.
Yes,
it's happening.
It's happening, and we're getting front row tickets, and we're going.
I don't care what it costs.
I don't care what it costs. Any show in driving distance, we're going. Like, we were set. And they're like, we're going to make this announcement, you know, on this date at this time. And I'm like on my phone. Like, I think like I was going with my family. We were going to Shipshawana or something like that. So we're like driving through like the backwoods. And so my service wasn't that great, but I'm like,
update.
It like, and I'm like, finally
wafting some signal.
I watched the announcement, and they're like, the Jesus Freak Cruise, and I'm like, what? No, that's not what I want.
Why? No. Yeah,
so
I think I specifically remember, like, I can't remember if we called each other or talked or text, but we're just like, it's a cruise.
I texted you immediately. I'm like, it's a cruise.
Yeah. It's a cruise. Like, it's like false alarm.
Yeah.
Like,
so
false flag operation. Yeah, but but to this day though, my wife knows no matter what it costs. I'm like, Chris and I we're going to this. Like,
yeah. Um, I'm hopeful. Do you think we'll ever see that day?
I have to assume that like part of the reason that they just did the cruise was because of their other schedules,
Right.
like with like Toby doing his own thing, with Michael doing his own thing,
Mm-hmm.
Kevin doing his own thing,
Right.
I guess. But like, they're like, we don't have a good schedule to do it. But I'm hoping like with like
That's one of those things though. You make time for it. Like,
that's I'm like, okay, COVID has happened. I'm just saying, you if we were on this like crazy lockdown for so long, hey guys, let's just kick around an idea for an album.
right.
Let's
I don't
let's
even
let's
care. Like, an album would be great, but I don't even care. I
it was
just want
just
to
like
go
a tour,
see
like
them again.
just
I just want a
yes,
reunion
like
tour, and I want to go
yes.
to a place and sit and watch them perform. That's
They
all I
they
care
could
about.
they could throw out like, hey, we made 4 songs and we're gonna do a reunion tour. Give it
Yeah.
all to me.
Right. Yeah.
Give it
Yeah. Yeah.
like take all my money.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yes. Yep.
So
Drag Sugar Bear out of wherever he's at.
well, I think Sugar. I think he plays with Toby. I think.
Does he? I would assume.
Maybe
I would
not,
assume.
but I thought so.
I
But
could see that.
I don't know. Either way, especially now, they're doing the Newsboys. Like, all the old Newsboys are back, so they don't need Michael anymore.
Get out of here! like we got our guy back. We're good.
So it was really weird. There was that time where it was like he was singing for Newsboys, and then Kevin was the lead singer of Audio Adrenaline for a minute.
Yeah.
It was
like
just
our childhood is just like, what is
going on?
happening? It's like Hollywood
This
Shuffle.
timeline is all messed up.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
all
right. Anything else you want to say about this?
I don't think I had too. I think we hit on pretty much every one of my notes that I had. Like, we were automatically talked about them, so I don't even know why I wrote them down. I'm like, but no. Other than the fact that, like, could you imagine if like Oliver, like, they did a grand tour, like DC Talk, the original Audio Adrenaline and original like Newsboys.
The original Audio A would be tough because Mark can't sing anymore. Like, his voice is
that. Yeah.
So that would be tough. But yes, that would be my dream, is if they did like a big 3 tour of those 3 bands, like their classic lineups.
Because I've seen DC Talk.
I've seen them all.
I've seen Audio Adrenaline. I have not seen Newsboys.
Yeah, I've seen them all.
So
I saw. In fact, I wasn't a fan of either one of the other 2. Like, for whatever reason, like I just didn't get it until I saw them. The Alive Festival, man. The Alive Festival, I miss those days too, because it was a good place to go and see all these different Christian artists.
Yeah,
even ones you didn't know, and you're like, oh, those guys are great. Like, there's a band. I think they only released 1 album, and I don't think their stuff is on Spotify or anything. Shaded Red was what they were called.
Dude, I have their album.
Okay. Okay. Yes. I saw them at the Alive Festival, and I was like, this is awesome. I have to get their CD.
Yes. I saw them live at we went to it was a Christ for the Nations camp thing. It was in Texas. So me and like 2 other friends from here went. But it was a Youth for the Nation. So it was like a week and you were there. But they had like their whole thing was like they would get big headliner Christian groups. And I think they were one of them, but Grits was there. So like that was like another big one. I feel like but like that was Shaded Red, definitely. I bought their album there.
Yeah. I bought it at the Alive Festival after seeing it. I'm like, this is great. And I saw,
they were good.
Saw Audio A live there. They were like a headliner, and I'm like, I'll stick around and watch them. One thing that I think about this album, I think this is, and I'd have to go back and look about, do more research as far as, crossover, but I think DC Talk, and specifically this album, it opened the door for later bands like Switchfoot and Skillet and some of these other bands that got heavy mainstream play. Even a band like POD, stylistically it's not even close really, but same thing. Like
they got their foot in the door.
It kind of opened the door for more of a mainstream crossover.
Oh yeah, because people started looking like, hey, this group is pretty good. This DC Talk group. Let's check out these other groups. They're hitting the billboards, and I mean, if you're looking at like sales wise, and if you're a company putting these groups out, you're like, hey, you know what?
Yeah.
You know, why not? Yeah.
All right, man. Well, thanks a lot.
Awesome.
Yeah. You got a Twitter or anything you want?
I don't have a Twitter.
Okay.
Well, I actually I do. I have to like log back into it. Because I'm that person. I don't use it enough.
Right.
I have Facebook and Instagram.
Okay.
But I'll shoot you my Twitter.
All right. It'll be on the screen.
Okay.
So
yeah, I'll have to look it up and get in there, but
I'll have it on the screen.
Okay.
Awesome. All right. Thanks guys for watching this.
All right.
Give it an old thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Yeah. Subscribe to the channel, leave a comment, share it with your friends, all that good kind of stuff. We will talk to you later. See ya.